Well, it was just too great of an opportunity to miss. I really wanted to show you what the back garden looks like in the snow. A lot of it has started to melt, but it's still really cold out today. I think it's in the 20s, Stuart, high 20s or something like that. One of the things I love about my backyard, though, in the cold weather is I can look through those French doors to my fireplace, and if Hubs is in his chair, then I can see him there, and it is just a very comfortable, cozy scene, and I like that. Very, very domestic. This is the reason I think that I am so emphatic about having evergreens, because they just look so beautiful in the wintertime. So imagine, if you would, what this landscape would look like if all of the evergreens, the boxwood balls, the hollies, things of that nature, if those were all deciduous, and if they didn't have that structural dark green component and facade to them. And I just love them in any season, but they're particularly valuable in the winter. And yes, there is such a thing as a winter garden, and I think they just really make it beautiful. And occasionally there'll be something really exciting, like I'll look out from sitting in front of the fire, and I'll look out here, and there'll be a cardinal or something sitting on one of those tufts of snow or on top of one of the boxwood balls, and it's just perfect, just a living finial, and I love that. So Stuart and we took great delight. Did it tickle you pink, Stuart? For you are never going to live that down using that explanation. But when we were inside yesterday, when it was almost too cold to go out, we were both admiring. And look at Stuart, it's sliding. It's starting to slide. But these wonderful shapes, domes, and perfect little gumdrops and tufts that had formed on all of the tables, the cushions of the chairs. I just loved them, and it definitely gave me some inspiration on how I might want to prune some things a little bit later. I just love that shape. Look, there's one still over there, Stuart, in the distance, that little table that's got the perfect dome. It almost looks like an ottoman or something that would have a little cushion, a little pillow on top of it. And I just love that. I take delight in strange things, and that makes me very delighted. What really makes me delighted is when I see this snow melting and I know it's going down into my garden, because this is the first precipitation we've had in 3 months, maybe, Stuart. And when we get finished here, I may even go out and shovel my porches and my driveway, not because they won't be impassable, but because it will melt very soon, but because I don't want any of that moisture to just go to waste and melt and run down the driveway and into the sewer. So sometimes what I do is I shovel it, and then I just throw it back onto my garden bed so they get that much more moisture. And I can't remember, Mike Morgan at one time told me the equivalency, and that's my question of the day. If you guys know how many inches of snow it takes to make 1 inch of water or 1 inch of rain, what the equivalencies are there in terms of precipitation and moisture, because I'm not sure. So if you know that, let me know. Mike Morgan at Channel 4 one time told me, and of course I've forgotten it. Another thing that I love is the pattern that it makes in the brick pavers and the stonework. I just love it, because one of my favorite things in the garden is patterns in general. And anything like this, anytime it snows like this, it really highlights the patterns. And what made us especially happy was there wasn't really any ice under this. Though if the camera is a little bit shaky, Stuart did not prepare, and he just has on his tennis shoes. Yeah, I would have, yeah. Because he's kind of, when he walks, he's kind of sinking into the snow, and that might make the camera, kind of rotate a little bit. So I hope it doesn't make you dizzy. Okay. This I just love. So this is one of the boxwood balls that I transplanted from out in the potager when I took them off, and I transplanted them, and I put them in this pot, and I just love this little cap on top of this. And what I love about it is now the form, because this is really an accentuated kind of elongated gumdrop shape or something, and I love this. maybe a egg shape, but fat on the bottom. I don't know how I would describe that. But nevertheless, I think that when I do some of my clipping next, as soon as it gets warm enough to start doing some pruning, that I'm going to try to create this shape out of these boxwoods, because they're actually kind of cut off at the top, if you could see them. So one thing about the snow is it will give you inspiration on patterns, on shapes, the way the light falls, and I love that. There is so much beauty in a winter garden, and I especially love it at night when it's all white and you can see the string lights. And Stuart, I've got a couple of string light bulbs that need to be replaced. Get on that, would you? Look here, this is an encore azalea. And it's gotten down to 13, and this guy is still green. In fact, it's still evergreen. I'll be curious to see if the buds on here make it and bloom, or if it has to reproduce some new buds. But nevertheless, the form of it, I think, is still really, really pretty. I've got some serious static. The air is so dry, so hopefully I won't spark myself or you, Stuart, get a little electrical jolt. Something else that it's doing, yesterday it was beautiful because you could really see the formation of the potager and the boxwood in the potager. Now the weight of it has kind of started to weight it down and open it up. And that doesn't bother me too much because, yes, it is going to mess with the shape and the profile and the structure of it some. But one thing I am going to do before I give it a hard prune this spring is I'm going to reach down in there and I'm going to do some interior pruning on the density of the boxwood so it doesn't have that surface veneer of foliage. And I really want the light to be able to get down deep into the interior of the hedge. So it may look like heck right now, but I am confident that I'll be able to make it look good again next spring. And then because I had so many of you recommended, and I have known this, and I have tried it before without success, and my friend Erin at The Impatient Gardener was also talking about it, because I had commented that I just hadn't seen much germination from my poppies, and more larkspur, but not so many poppies. And so some of you said, well, try throwing some seed on the snow and have it melt, and have it melt in. And historically, that has not worked for me here in Oklahoma because it gets so hot so fast. But I thought, why not? I've got seed to spare. So yesterday I came out here and I sprinkled lots of seed on top of the snow. And let me see, do I see any germinated seedlings? Let me see, Stuart. Oh, look. Now, these aren't from ones that I sprinkled yesterday, but see those right there? Those are, I think, little poppy seedlings, which obviously will need to be thinned later. The problem is they will germinate, but they don't always last. So I may have to come back in here and maybe put a light cover of leafy mulch on top of them. Another reason that sometimes they don't last is because it's been so dry and the winds have been so high that any seeds that germinate then dry out almost immediately. If I put too much of a leafy cover on them, some will and some won't germinate. So it's just, there's always a tension between what's the appropriate thing to do. But I try to cover all of my bets. So that's kind of what's happening in here. I do have most of the potted bulbs that I planted this fall are under cover, but some of these pots were too large and I left them out here, and even these will benefit from having some snowfall. They're not going to rot because they have definitely not had too much moisture, and actually this might be really, really beneficial to them. So I'm so anxious to get out here and start pruning and get things looking the way I want them to look. But if you do kind of a span of the garden, Stuart, you can see that it looks not too bad. I love the way the furniture looks in the snow, And it was really cool yesterday, wasn't it, Stuart, when the furniture still had all of the snow on top of it. Now, I know some of you guys are just gonna laugh. There's so many of you really talented gardeners and kind souls up in Canada and in parts of Europe and really all over the world that get snow regularly and that you don't kind of get the giddiness that we in the South experience when we get a good snowfall, because it's just so beautiful. But we try to really take advantage of it and enjoy it while it's here, because we don't get it very often, and it's especially enjoyable when we get snow. Or when we get the moisture from it. Now, some of you have asked me about Nandina. So Stuart, if you don't mind showing, in the distance you can see some of that Nandina domestica with the red berries on it. And am I concerned about that? Nandina can be invasive, and that Nandina berries can be toxic to birds. And of course I'm concerned about it. I do rely on my own experience, and that is here in Oklahoma, they just are really not invasive. And if they are, it can be, I haven't seen them invasive anywhere, but if they are, I think it could be pretty easily remedied. And they're just an invaluable plant here in Oklahoma, where our repertoire of plants isn't as broad as it is in other areas. Now, there is evidence that the berries can be toxic to birds, particularly cedar waxwings that gorge on the berries. Most of mine, with the exception of those, I need to clip those, but I have not had an experience where I have seen evidence of it, but nevertheless the literature does show you that. And that's one of the reasons I like the Southern Living, the Nandinas and the Southern Living plant collection, because they don't berry. They just have all of the advantages of the beautiful foliage, especially Obsession Nandina. So there you go. There is just kind of a little winter wonderland tour of my backyard. And like you, I just can't wait to get out there and enjoy what spring will have to offer. It's an exciting time. So there you go. Go inside, sit by the fire, and dream about spring. Well, here you go. Here is my bundled up outfit of the day. My glasses are just classic Wayfarer Ray-Bans. My gloves, I don't remember where I got these gloves. I've had them for years, but I do like these kind of fingertipless gloves. What are they called? Fingerless gloves, I guess. Anyhow, whatever. And I love my jacket. This is a Sundance coat. I've had it for years. I bought it on sale and I just love it. And I also love it because it has if I can reach it, it's got a hood on it. So if my ears get cold, which often happens, then I've got a hood. And then my breeches are just the same ones I had on yesterday. They are Calvin Klein, they're secondhand, thrifted, and my boots are hunter boots that I got off of eBay. And my earrings are the same ones I had on in the last video. These are just posts that my sister gave me. Got these from my sister, and my sweater is thrifted. So there you go. There is my chilly bundled up outfit of the day.